Hello and welcome to TOI Books. Today we have with us Indian film actor, writer, and national award-winning film director Jugal Hansraj. He began working in films first as a child actor, Masoom being the most notable. He then went on to become a lead actor in films like Papa Kehte Hain and Mohabbatein, among others. In 2006, he turned writer-director and made the animation film Roadside Romeo, and in 2010, he directed the feature film Pyar Impossible. In 2017, the actor, writer, director added yet another feather to his cap by turning an author with his debut book, Cross Connection, The Big Circus Adventure. More recently, his second novel for children titled The Coward and the Sword was published in 2021. Welcome, Mr. Hansraj.
Thank you, Surbi. It's lovely to be here.
And without further ado, I'll dive into the questions now. First of all,
Sure.
Congratulations on your second book.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy that, firstly, that it's out, and secondly, that it's getting a good response and good reviews from the readers and the young readers especially. So that's very important to me.
Would you like to tell us the inspiration behind writing your new book?
The inspiration was actually twofold. As you already mentioned, I'd already had a book published as an author in 2017 for young children aged roughly in the 6 to 10 age group. And this was around the time of the birth of my second child, just a few months after the first book released in December 2017. A month or two later, my son was born. And I had taken a break and I was just, staying at home, taking care of my wife and newborn son. And I had a lot of time on my hands, because at that age, the babies nap a lot. They're always sleeping. And I also, I've been studying Buddhist philosophy and reading about Buddhism and practicing for a long time. And there's this particular quote which I always found very profound. And when I reread it, it kind of struck a different chord in me, probably because of fatherhood. I'm not sure, maybe that, I was a changed person. And that quote read, "A sword is useless in the hands of a coward." And I found that was very profound because it talks about bravery and which is actually within oneself. It does not depend on an outside, some outside object or outside person or outside force. Everything you need is actually within you. And also being a fan of the whole fantasy fiction genre, like, the Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and, Narnia and all that stuff I've grown up watching, and I still enjoy that genre very much. So that kind of all these things together sparked a whole, thought in me, and that one quote led to an entire book, I think, slowly over a long period of time, but it was a very slow process. But it wasn't a commission book, so it was something coming straight from the heart. I would like to think of it as a labor of love, actually, because apart from trying to tell a good story, I was also trying to pass on some nice message, not only to my son when he grows up and reads it, but also to all the young readers out there.
That brings me to my next question. Do you think that children's books or books for young adults should always have a moral to it?
Not necessarily. I mean, that's up to the author. This is what I believe in, because especially that age group is very impressionable. And without preaching or without trying to, sound holier than thou and all that, if while entertaining them and trying to tell a gripping, engaging story, if I can slip in some values or something which I have learned, obviously they're not mine. It's not something I don't have that wisdom, but it's just something when I read or learn something nice, if I can share that, I think that's something that is very more important than just material success. And if you can influence someone in a right way, however small that influence might be, I think that's great.
What, according to you, were your challenges when you were writing this book?
Challenges, as I said, this wasn't commissioned at all. I was just like shooting in the dark, pretty much. I had no clue, first of all, if I would even complete the novel when I started writing it. It was just a thought. I started writing some notes down just to, keep myself busy. And I'm a creative person, so something or the other, I'm always up to something on that front. So I was just writing it for fun, to be honest. I was enjoying it. I was having a very good time, getting into the world that whole fantasy world of this kingdom and the characters. But around halfway through, when it started having structure, and that's when I thought, this could be a proper book. And then I stopped writing because I didn't know how to end it, because it wasn't something I'd planned. So normally, when you plan as a writer, you have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? At least you have a kind of blueprint of where the story is going. I had no idea how I'm going to end it. My prince and his friends have reached the enemy kingdom. Now I don't know what to do. So I completely stopped writing. So for 6 months, 7 months, I didn't write. Plus, I was really busy in those days, so I didn't have the focus to. Then when again I kind of settled down and I had some time, I started writing, and I said, let me take one chapter at a time. What would happen next? Like the immediate future of the characters, and that's how I finished the book. So it wasn't something planned, and it just happened actually. To be honest, a lot of hard work and a lot of rewriting, as most writing always is, because you always go back and say it's terrible and you rewrite something. But I had a lot of fun in the process too. So
do you plan to adapt it for screen someday?
Oh, definitely. This being from the movie business and actor and director, and somebody who loves movies. As I said, I'm not a trained writer, so when I write it like a movie. So I close my eyes, I see the opening shot, I see the big 70 screen, I see the fade in of the big, castle on top of the mountain and the blue ocean, and I actually start writing. The thoughts come to me visually first, and then I put them into words. So I do want to, at some point, I don't know how and when, but this would, I think, make a really nice movie. It's got scale, and it's got the underdog, and it's got bravery, and it's got, I think, a nice plot and nice adventure to it too. So visually also it should be a treat. I'm already writing book 2 of the series. I have a few more with these characters and already underway with book 2.
So when can we expect book 2 coming out?
Well, hopefully maybe end of this year or early next year.
So are you planning to write a series to it with the same?
I don't know. Right now I have this story, and I have a germ of an idea of a third book. Obviously, it depends on the publishers if they feel there's potential in it, because they are the ones publishing it. But yeah, they have liked the idea of the second book. Therefore, I'm going ahead with this one. And about the third book, we'll cross the bridge when we come to it. Let's see what the response with the publishers are. Let's see what the response with the readers is, and then I'll decide. But I do have some ideas. I'm very excited.
Would you like to share a bit more about the next book, book 2?
Yeah, book 2 is the same, characters with a little they've grown a little older, and now, they're going forward with their lives and incident and adventure that envelops them in this book. Obviously, there will be some new characters coming in as, they go off in a different direction with a different purpose. So it's the growth of the characters also. And I presume and hope that growth in my writing as well, as I get more experienced.
So being a celebrity, being an actor or a public figure, do you think there's some kind of pressure to be whenever you reinvent yourself into something and do something new?
I don't think so. Like if I had some big blockbuster books behind me where there was a lot of expectation, I don't think there's people don't know what to expect, right? So I'm not an established writer. This is just my second book. So I think people come into it with an open mind, and ultimately it's the book that will speak for itself. So whatever people know you or know of you or know of your work, I don't think once they start flipping the pages of the book, that's not going to make a difference. Especially since I'm not writing about my life. So I'm not talking about my experiences in the film industry or the people I've interacted with. It's just completely a fictional story. So at that point, I don't think people will really. They might recognize the name and this guy is also writing a book or something. But apart from that, I think the book will have to speak on merit. So I can't expect too much on that front.
Do you plan to write a memoir someday?
I'm not sure. I mean, I do have a lot of anecdotes and stories, especially since I've been around since I was a child. and filmmaking, and the people have changed so much that I have a lot of varied experiences, more than someone who came in recent years might have. I don't know. I mean, I don't like talking about myself too much, so I don't know if I would do that. But if I did, I mean, I have some entertaining incidents and anecdotes and stuff. It's been a interesting ride since I was a child. Since, in fact, I started modeling at the age of 2, so it's even before Masoom. So it's been more than 40 years since I've been in front of the camera. So I might, let's see. I don't know if there would be enough interest. Let's see.
And how would you describe yourself? Would you describe yourself as an emotional person or a practical person?
Definitely emotional. Definitely, as most people who are creative or creatively inclined are emotional and sensitive to what's happening around them, because that's how I can write and observe and feel. And if I don't feel something while acting or writing, then I can't expect the person watching me or reading to feel something. So I definitely am an emotional person, much to my detriment. I think in today's world, it's good to not be emotional, but I guess it is what it is.
So your first book was a children's book, and this one is fantasy fiction. So do you want to experiment writing any other genre?
Sure. Why not? I mean, this is just how I think. In fact, the first book wasn't even planned again. It was, as you know, my first film was an animation film that you mentioned also, called Roadside Romeo. And this was to be my second animation film, which I was to write and direct. And I had written a first draft of a screenplay, which the producers and the Walt Disney Studios, also there was a joint venture with a big Indian studio and Walt Disney, and they had all liked the story, but for some reason that joint venture broke up and the movie never got made. And this first draft was lying in my pen drive, and many years later I was cleaning up all, trying to delete stuff which I don't need anymore. And then I saw this file came up, and then I read it, and then I said, this is quite nice. I was quite saddened that it didn't come out in front of the public. It didn't get made as a movie. It was a fun, and again, it had a little bit of a moral lesson somewhere inside. So I said, if I keep depending on producers and studios to make it, it'll never come out. So let me just take matters in my own hand. And when I wrote it, I felt a bit free that there's nobody sitting on my head telling me what to do. It's my thing, right? There's no producer or studio telling me this is not commercial, or this won't work, or that won't work, or add this, and this star is not available, and all that stuff. It was just coming straight from my mind onto paper. So it was very liberating, and I wrote it. And I found a publisher, and again, that got a very positive response. That was obviously for very young kids, 6 to 10, animal characters in a circus. But then that kind of gave me confidence to, once you have one book published, you feel you can do it again. Though it's a very long and slow process. But as I said, I'm doing other things, and this was one of the things. Whenever I had free time, I would do it. This was more out of love, and having got a little short of confidence, I kind of thought, why not attempt another one?
So writing for films or writing your own books, if you have to choose one of them, or which is closer to your heart?
Writing books is definitely closer to my heart, because, as I said, it's only me. There's no pressure from any angle. Of course, the pressure of getting the book published is always there, because you don't know if the publisher is going to like it, and if it's even going to come out. But having said that, it's a lot more liberating, and there's a lot more freedom. And good or bad, it's yours. There's no actor making suggestions or producer making suggestions, and or any pressures of location, or you have to change this because we don't have the budget for it. I can write about a whole kingdom, because it's not going to cost me anything. Whether I write about a small mouse in a little hole, or I write about a universe, it's just going to be the same, right? So there's total freedom in that. Of course, tomorrow if it's made into a movie, then all those things will come into play again, budget and this and that. But as a book, I think there's a lot of freedom. So I do enjoy writing that.
So who's your all-time favorite author, if you would?
Too many. I've been reading since I was in school. too many. I can name. Let's see. From in this genre, I would definitely say J.R.R. Tolkien, who's I think the master, and who everybody who writes in the genre kind of is definitely influenced by his work. And of course, J.K. Rowling, who wrote the whole Harry Potter series, C.S. Lewis, and then generally other writers. Since I was a child, as a child, I used to love P.G. Wodehouse a lot, especially the language and the way he kind of wrote and created a visual. I still read, his books every now and then. I go back and reread them. Bill Bryson. I read a lot of non-fiction like Bill Bryson and Anthony Bourdain. I read biographies. I read travel. A lot of books I read about people traveling the world and about other cultures and stuff like that. It fascinates me. So, too many authors to name.
And if you would like to mention a book that really changed you as a person or
touched me, there are a lot of books. In fact, I would say books that left an impression, definitely Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, fiction. Then there's another book by Bill Bryson called A Short History of Nearly Everything. It's the best science book I've read in my life, which was the most fun. I wish they taught this in school. I know more about science through these 400 pages than I did in all my years in school. A lot. I like books on history. I've read a lot of William Dalrymple is another famous author whose work I really enjoy. So, about books touching me, I would definitely say the book writer that, is most influential for me and that influence is there in Coward and the Sword as well is Daisaku Ikeda, who's, I think, the most published author in the world. But he writes in Japanese, but I've read a lot of his translated works. And I also study his writings. That's why I mentioned him at the start of the book. So books that are closest to my heart after all these, I would say, is Daisaku Ikeda's books, where I've learned a lot about Buddhism and life and even this whole idea of peace and, being against war, which is there in The Coward and the Sword, is a lot influenced by his work.
So you're an actor, you're also a parent, and
yes.
Now you're a children's author. So what are your parenting tips for other parents out there?
I'm still learning, to be honest. I can't say I'm the best father, but I definitely try my best with all my heart. And my life is completely transformed in the best possible way. And I can't imagine now life without my son. I don't know how I did all these years, all these grown-up years without, having him in my life. But now basically your whole life changes, right? It's like any parent. My parents before me, for them, we were the world, right? My brother and me. And for me, my son is my entire life. So everything revolves around him. So even this book now, even the book I'm writing is because when he grows up, maybe I hope he's proud of me, and I want to leave something nice back for him. So every action now is in that direction. So
which children's book do you love reading to him?
Well, he reads really young ones, but he's really into Peppa Pig and all that stuff right now. But so I read that to him. I like reading bedtime stories, where again, without being boring, there can be some positive influence. So, Peter Rabbit and a lot of stuff. I'm quite enjoying reading to him. So if I get disappointed with once in a while, he says, I don't want to read tonight. So I feel bad because I wanted to read too. So.
Do you have any writing tips for other children's authors or aspiring writers?
See, I'm no expert. I'm not a trained writer. I haven't gone through any formal training in writing. All I can say is one trap that generally people tend to fall into is to write what other people might like. Then you're not being true to yourself, right? Because you'll never be able to know that. There are millions of readers out there who are all different from each other. How are you going to know that I think this is what is liked? Even when I was pitching my book, a lot of people reject it saying, oh, this doesn't work. I'm saying, how do you know? You're one person, that's your opinion, right? But the other person might love it. So, the best thing to do is write what you like. Write what touches you and write what you like to read. If you are a reader and this entertains and engages you, and write that to the best of your ability and then hope that everyone else likes it too. That's the only thing, because it's impossible. You go crazy trying to think of, so this will work, that will not work. This one might like it, that one might not like it. It's like, some of them say, for example, the movie I've directed, there may be some bad reviews that it got,
Mm.
but that's one person's own opinion, right? They might have a platform on a TV channel to talk about it and say I didn't like it or whatever. But what about those hundreds and thousands of people who have come up to me and said we loved your movie? Like, who's right and who's wrong? Is that person right because he has a TV camera in front of him or her? Or is the person who's walked up to me on the street and said we loved your movie, is that person more right than the other? So you can't really just write from your heart. I would strongly recommend that, and then it'll be good. If it's from the heart, it'll be fine.
If you had to complete the phrase "I write because," how would you complete it?
Okay. I write because I love escaping into another world.
And the last question, an advice that you would like to give to your younger self.
My younger self? There's an old Frank Sinatra song which called "My Way," which has one lyric in it, one line, which is, I can quote that, regrets I have a few, but then again, too few to mention. So I wouldn't tell my younger self anything. I think it's fine. I am what I am because of how I was, and may have been many things that didn't work out the way one wanted, but I have a lot to be grateful for, with a wonderful family, my parents who are no more, but I will always cherish all the love and blessing they gave me, my brother, my wife, my child. I mean, nothing else matters, so that's fine. We all have things we liked and we wish we hadn't done, but we are what we are today because of those things, good and bad. So it's okay. So I won't tell my younger self anything. Just continue the way I was. It's fine.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Hansraj. It was lovely talking to you.
My pleasure, Sophie. Lovely to talk to you, and thanks for having me on on the chat.